There's something they never told you about abundance. You don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. And right now, in this very moment, most people are living in a state of separation, waiting for the money to arrive so they can finally feel worthy, finally feel safe, finally feel like they made it. But here's the truth that changes everything. Your body doesn't know the difference between an experience that's generating an emotion and an emotion you're generating by thought alone. So what if the science is showing us that you can signal to your body that the wealth has already arrived, that the healing has already happened, that the love is already here? What if that frequency, that state of being, is what compels the quantum field to rearrange itself and deliver the evidence? This isn't about positive thinking. This is about becoming the vibration of what you seek before you see it. And when you understand how to do that, everything shifts. Let's start by understanding something fundamental about how you've been living your life. There are two ways to move through this world, as a victim or as a creator. And I'm not using these words to judge you, but to illuminate a pattern that most of us fall into without even realizing it. Being a victim means you've handed over the remote control of your internal state to something outside of you. It means you believe that the lack of money in your bank account is what's making you feel anxious. It means you think your ex-partner is the reason you can't feel love anymore. It means the government, the economy, your childhood, your circumstance are the ones deciding how you feel in this. And when you live like this, you are always at the mercy of the external world, always waiting for something out there to change so you can finally feel different in here. But being a creator, that's a different story entirely. A creator understands that the external world is a reflection, not the source. A creator takes full responsibility for their internal state, knowing that the feeling comes first and the evidence follows. And this isn't just spiritual philosophy. This is rooted in how your brain was wired from the very beginning. Between the ages of 2 and 12, your brain was operating primarily in theta and alpha brainwave states. You were a sponge, absorbing everything around you without a filter, without an analytical mind to question whether what you were hearing was true or not. So when you heard your parents say that money is hard to come by, that you have to struggle to survive, that rich people are greedy, that you're not smart enough, not worthy enough, not enough, period, you didn't reject those beliefs, you recorded them. You installed them like software into your subconscious mind. And now, decades later, that same programming is running in the background 95% of the time, creating the same thoughts, the same choices, the same behaviors, and therefore the same results. This is the loop. And until you become aware of it, until you see it clearly, you will keep recreating the same reality over and over again, wondering why nothing ever changes. For centuries, we've been living under the spell of Newtonian physics, a model of reality that tells us that everything works in a linear fashion, that cause must come before effect, that you have to do something out there in the physical world in order to get a result. This is the model that says you need to work harder, push more, force your way through obstacles, wait for the right circumstances to align, and only then, after all that effort, after all that time and struggle, will you finally be able to feel successful, feel abundant, feel at peace. This is the game of separation, and it's exhausting because you're always chasing something that feels just out of reach. You think to yourself, when I get the promotion, then I'll feel confident. When I meet the right person, then I'll feel loved. When the money shows up in my account, then I'll finally relax and feel abundant. But here's what happens in that model. There's always a gap, a space between where you are now and where you think you need to be. And in that gap, you live in a state of lack, a state of waiting, a state of not enough. But quantum physics shows us something radically different, something that flips the entire script. In the quantum model, you don't wait for the effect to feel the emotion. You generate the emotion first, and that emotion becomes the cause that creates the effect. You feel abundant before the money arrives. You feel grateful before the healing happens. You feel loved before the person shows up. And your body, which is the most honest, objective instrument you have, doesn't know the difference between a real experience happening out there in your life and an experience you're creating through thought and feeling right now in this moment. When you close your eyes and you feel, truly feel, the gratitude of having received what you desire, when you embody that state so fully that your heart is coherent, your breath is calm, Your entire nervous system relaxes into the knowing that it's already done. Your body believes it. And when your body believes it, it starts sending a different signal into the field. This is not about pretending. This is not about faking it until you make it. This is about understanding that the quantum field responds to who you are being, not to what you are wanting. It responds to your state, your frequency, your vibration. And when you shift from living in the Newtonian model of effort and separation into the quantum model of being and magnetism, you stop chasing and you start receiving. Now let's talk about how this actually works inside of you, because manifestation isn't some mystical concept that only works for a chosen few. It's a formula, and when you understand the formula, you can apply it with precision and watch your reality shift in ways that feel almost miraculous. The formula has two essential components: a coherent brain and a coherent heart. And when these two come together in harmony, you become a powerful transmitter and receiver of energy, a living magnet for the life you're dreaming of. Your brain is like a broadcasting station, a transmitter sending out signals into the quantum field. But here's the thing. When your brain is stressed, when it's scattered, when you're worrying about 10 different things at once, replaying past hurts, rehearsing future fears, that signal becomes static. It's incoherent, chaotic, unclear. The field doesn't know what you're asking for because you yourself don't know what you're asking for. Your thoughts are contradicting each other. Your focus is fractured, and so the signal you're sending out is weak and distorted. But when you quiet your mind, when you focus your attention on a single intention, when you become so present that the past and the future dissolve, and all that exists is this moment right here, your brain becomes coherent. The signal becomes clear, strong, focused. You're no longer sending out 100 scattered requests. You're sending out one powerful, unified intention, and the field can finally hear you. But intention alone isn't enough, and this is where most people get stuck. They set the intention, they visualize what they want, they say the affirmations, but nothing changes because they're missing the second part of the formula, the magnetic field of the heart. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field that is 5,000 times stronger than the field produced by your brain. Think about that for 5,000 times. This field extends several feet beyond your body, and it's this field that pulls reality toward you. But it doesn't respond to your thoughts, it responds to your feelings. This is why you can think about abundance all day long, but if you're feeling lack, if you're feeling unworthy, if you're feeling like you're not enough, that's the frequency you're broadcasting, and that's what you'll continue to magnetize into your life. Gratitude is the frequency of receiving. It's the emotion that tells your body, tells your heart, tells every cell in your being that what you desire has already been given. When you feel grateful, you're not in a state of wanting, you're in a state of having. You're not reaching forward into the future with desperation, you're standing in the present moment with fullness. And this is the match. This is the alignment that the quantum field responds to. When your clear intention in the brain meets the elevated emotion of gratitude in the heart, you create what's called coherence. And in that state of coherence, you don't have to go chasing after your desires anymore, because the energy you're emitting is so magnetic, so aligned, that reality begins to reorganize itself around you. Opportunities that were invisible before suddenly appear. People reach out to you at exactly the right time. Resources flow to you with ease. These aren't coincidences. These are synchronicities, and synchronicities are the language of the quantum field, letting you know that you've changed your frequency and the universe is responding. Here's where the real transformation begins, and it's not where most people think it is. This isn't about the money. It's not about the relationship. It's not about the house or the career or the recognition. Those things are just effects, byproducts, reflections of something much deeper that's happening inside of you. Abundance is the side effect of who you become in the process of claiming it, and who you become requires you to let go of who you've been. This is the part that people resist because it asks something of you that feels like death. And in a way, it is. It's the death of the old self, the old identity, the old story you've been telling about why things are the way they are. You cannot take your complaints into your future. You cannot take your resentment, your blame, your victimhood, your need to be right about how hard life has been. and expect to walk into a reality of ease and abundance. Those frequencies don't match. That old version of you, the one who believes that struggle is necessary, that suffering is noble, that you have to prove your worth through exhaustion, that version has to die. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's the most compassionate truth I can offer you, because until you're willing to let that version go, you will keep recreating the same patterns, the same limitations, the same pain. To change your personal reality, you have to change your personality. Your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. And those three things combined create your state of being. And your state of being is what broadcasts the signal that calls in your reality. So if you want a different reality, you need a different state of being, which means you need to think different thoughts, make different choices, and feel different emotions. And this is where the practice comes in, where the real work happens. You have to rehearse being the person who already has what you desire. You have to mentally rehearse walking through your day as someone who is abundant, who is confident, who is loved, who is healthy, who is free. And here's the extraordinary part. Your brain doesn't know the difference between something you're vividly imagining and something you're actually experiencing. Neuroscience has shown us that when you mentally rehearse an action, you activate the same neural networks as if you were physically performing that action. So when you close your eyes and you see yourself moving through your life with grace, with ease, with certainty, when you feel what it feels like to be that version of you, your brain starts building the hardware, the neural pathways, the circuitry that supports that identity. You're literally installing the biology of your future self before the external evidence shows up. And this is the discipline. This is what it means to overcome. It's not about overcoming the circumstances. It's about overcoming the addiction to the old emotions, the old thoughts, the old version of you that felt safe in its suffering, because at least it was familiar. You have to fall so in love with the vision of your future that you're willing to let the past go. You have to become so committed to the feeling of who you're becoming that you refuse to return to the feelings of who you were. And every time you catch yourself slipping back into the old story, every time you hear yourself complaining, blaming, justifying why you can't have what you want, you pause, you breathe, you choose again, because that's your power. That's where your sovereignty lives, in the choice to stop being who you were and to start being who you're becoming over and over again, until that new self is no longer something you're trying to be, but simply who you are. Now let's bring this into the world you're living in right now, because this isn't just theory. This isn't just something that sounds beautiful on paper. This is something you can test, something you can verify through your own direct experience. And the feedback system that tells you it's working is simple. Synchronicities. When you start living from this new state of being, when you're no longer waiting for the evidence to feel abundant, but instead you're generating the feeling first, reality begins to respond. And it responds in ways that are undeniable. Opportunities that were never on your radar suddenly present themselves. An email arrives from someone you haven't heard from in years with exactly the resource you needed. A conversation happens in the most unexpected place that opens a door you didn't even know existed. You find yourself in the right place at the right time over and over again, and it stops feeling like luck and starts feeling like orchestration, like the universe is conspiring on your. These synchronicities are the language of the field. They're the confirmation that your energy has shifted, that the signal you're broadcasting is clear and coherent, that you are no longer vibrating at the frequency of lack, but at the frequency of alignment. And when you start to see them, when you start to recognize them, you build trust, you build faith. Not faith in some external deity that may or may not answer your prayers, but faith in the process itself, faith in your own ability to change your state and watch the world around you change in response. This is when the magic happens. This is when you stop doubting and start knowing. But here's where most people sabotage themselves, and this is critical to understand. They do the practice. They meditate for an hour in the morning. They visualize their future. They feel the gratitude. They generate the coherence. And then they open their eyes and spend the next 15 hours of their day complaining about what isn't working, worrying about money, replaying the past, feeling resentful, feeling unworthy, feeling like a victim all over again. And in doing that, they cancel out the signal. They erase the frequency they worked so hard to establish in the morning. Because the field doesn't care what you did for 1 hour. It responds to what you're doing most of the time. It responds to your dominant state. So if you're spending 1 hour in alignment and 15 hours in resistance, guess which frequency is going to dominate? Guess which reality you're going to keep creating? This is why consistency matters. This is why the work isn't just about the meditation. It's about how you move through your entire day. It's about catching yourself when you slip back into the old patterns and choosing differently. It's about remembering, in the middle of a stressful moment, that you are not a victim of this circumstance. You are the creator of your response. It's about keeping your energy clean, keeping your focus on the future you're building, rather than the past you're leaving behind. And when you do that, when you make that your way of being, the synchronicities multiply, the doors open wider, the flow becomes undeniable, and you realize that you were never separate from abundance. You were just tuned to the wrong frequency, and now you've remembered how to tune yourself back to the channel where everything you desire is already waiting for you. So here we are, at the end of this conversation, but really at the beginning of something much greater for you. Because everything I've shared with you isn't just information to be consumed and forgotten. It's an invitation to step into a completely different way of living, a way that asks you to let go of the story you've been telling about who you are and what's possible for you. The healing begins the moment you stop identifying with the wounds of your past. The wealth begins the moment you stop waiting for external validation to feel abundant. The transformation begins the moment you fall in love with the vision of your future, more than you're attached to the memories of your past. This is the great shift, and it's available to you right now, not someday when the conditions are perfect, not when you finally have enough money or enough time or enough confidence, but now, in this moment, exactly as you are, because the quantum field doesn't care about your history. It doesn't care about your mistakes, your failures, your limitations. It only responds to the signal you're sending right now. And when you understand that, when you really let that truth land in your body, you realize that you've been holding the key all along. You just forgot that you had it. There's a state you can enter, a state that the ancient mystics knew and that modern science is now proving, where you become no one, in no place, in no time. In this state, you're not identified with your name, your story, your circumstances, your body. You're pure potential, pure consciousness, pure energy. And in that space, beyond the limitations of matter, beyond the constraints of linear time, beyond the prison of your conditioned mind, infinite possibilities exist. This is where true manifestation happens. This is where healing occurs. This is where abundance flows. Not because you're forcing it, not because you're chasing it, but because you've stepped out of the way and allowed the field to do what it's always been trying to do, which is to deliver to you the highest version of your life. So the question isn't whether this works. The question is whether you're willing to commit to it, whether you're willing to stop living as a victim of your circumstances and start living as the creator of your reality, whether you're willing to feel deserving before you see the proof, whether you're willing to let go of who you've been to become who you're meant to be, because that's where the power is. That's where freedom lives. Not in the external world changing, but in you changing from the inside out, so profoundly, so completely, that the external world has no choice but to reflect it back to you. So today, when you sit down to meditate, when you close your eyes and turn your attention inward, don't open them again until you feel it. Don't come back to this physical reality until you've genuinely felt the worthiness moving through your body, until you've touched that place inside of you that knows, without question, that you are deserving of every blessing you've been asking for. Stay there in that space until the gratitude is real, until the abundance is palpable, until your heart believes that it's already done. That's the moment when the shift happens. That's when you stop being someone who wants and become someone who has. And when you open your eyes from that place, you'll move through your day differently because you'll be different. And here's what I want to know from you, because this is where the real conversation begins. What is the old story from your past that you're deciding to stop telling today? What is the narrative you've been carrying? The excuse you've been using? The limitation you've been believing that you're finally ready to release? Because once you let it go, once you stop giving it your energy and your attention, you create space for something new to enter. So write it down, put it in the comments. Let the words have power as you declare, I am the creator of my reality. Say it out loud if you need to. Let it be the turning point, the line in the sand, the moment you chose yourself and your future over your past and your pain. This is your time. This is your invitation. And the field is waiting for your answer.